Thank you so much, and welcome. So, City of Boston. It's a city with a $3 billion operating budget, 18,000 employees, 4.5 million metro residents. But just like most municipalities, up until recently, data was used rarely in the public sector, as a matter of course. So when Mayor Martin Walsh became elected as the first new mayor in 20 years in the city, he tasked me as his chief of staff to create the first true data-driven organization. And he said, most importantly, it needed to be exciting and interesting so that we could get both internal and external buy-in. So I turned to the love of my life, baseball, as a metaphor to get people excited. So this is Ted Williams. He's the greatest hitter who ever lived. He also plays for the Boston Red Sox. I'm a little biased about it. Teddy Ballgame had a .406 batting average. That was what he was most remembered for, of anything else. The best hitter who ever lived. And for centuries, people thought that baseball players should be rated basically largely on that single stat, the batting average. That all changed in 2002 with the Oakland A's. Anyone from Oakland? Yeah, there you go. A's general manager Billy Beane and his team won 102 games with just a .261 batting average. And the way they did it was they used deep analytical rigor when evaluating players and not just looking at players and saying, wow, that guy looks great and he can hit. And it revolutionized the way the game was played and how people were evaluated. So we thought, what were the lessons of baseball that we can use to make the city more data-driven? And think about what a coach does. You know, a coach used to just look at a player and say he's good. Now they use deep analytics in making decisions. So first we needed to make sure, before we got to the advanced analytics, to get the basic statistics. And we also needed to send the message that the mayor was taking this very seriously. So we set up a data dashboard in the mayor's office, 4 of them to be exact. One in the upper left showing the news. On the upper right, the calls to his call center, so everything from complaints about graffiti to potholes. And on the bottom left and bottom right, everything from, as you can see here, a color-coded map based on quantity of visits to different neighborhoods. And on the right, the number of opioid-related overdoses that were happening in the city on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And what we saw from this is that the cabinet chiefs really bought in, not just because they were excited about data, but because also they knew that the mayor was seeing it every day and reacting to it. We had a veteran services secretary who was so excited that she was tracking the number of calls coming in each day that she was rallying her entire team to beat her score from the day before. It had this great effect on everyone around her and everyone really in the city. But back to baseball. The data is great, but once you have that data, you need to apply it. In the case of baseball, a manager does an outfield shift or all these things to make sure that the team is most effective. And so how do we use the reliable data we get to then make those calls on our field? Well, there's a thing that players need to do to stay in the league if they're on offense, which is hits. And there's a specific kind of hit that a mayor needs to do in order to stay in office, and that's trash collection. And you've probably seen these around your cities. They're the trash cans, they look fancy, they got the blinking lights. What you don't realize is that while we see this, while you see this, we actually see this. Real-time fill levels of the trash all around our city. So it's really fascinating to see our public works use this data. They're poring over spreadsheets, they're looking at these trends. And so gone are the days of the up one street, down the other, static way of picking up trash. And now we optimize it based on these fill levels, and we have historical data. So for time of year, all that stuff, we get that data. And gone are the days now where you're going to have overflowing trash cans because of some street fair or all that stuff, because we have the historical data to know exactly where the fill levels are. And what we wanted to do is look at engaging citizens in the low, medium, and high levels of engagement. So a low medium of engagement for citizens is that, just throwing out trash. What about a medium level of engagement? Well, we've tried to do a public-private partnership in getting people to download apps on their phone to help them stay more engaged. One of the companies we partner with is Waze. How many people use Waze? Yeah, it's unbelievable, especially in a traffic-packed place like Boston. We were one of 10 cities to partner with Waze to use their data to help us better understand how our roads work and how we can better regulate traffic. So we have all kinds of information about how long it's taking to go from point A to point B through that Waze data. And Boston is a cramped place. Anyone who's ever been there knows that there's double parked cars everywhere. So now we're able to even see where all the double parked cars are in a given period. And taking that a step further, as we say, like a manager, and applying that data, we have taken all of that and run all kinds of experiments that help us better regulate traffic. So in a typical traffic management center, some of you may have seen it in your local municipalities, there are cameras everywhere. They're looking at all of the major intersections throughout the city. Well, we took that, we had our data team sit with our traffic engineers, and we built in a Waze data dashboard into the camera array. So instead of just looking at the camera and looking at the different intersections and eyeballing it, we're actually able to see qualitative and quantitative data coming from that screen in real time. And this is the corner of Atlantic and Seaport in Boston. It's one of the most trafficked areas in our city. And we resynchronized the lights based on the Waze data we were getting from here. And we were able to reduce the number of traffic incident reports from Waze by 18% just by synchronizing those lights. So obviously we still need big infrastructure changes and the long-term things, but these are things that we can do right now, immediately, just with data. And we also took all those double parked car data that we had, and we targeted these guys and these guys. And we got these guys to take all of that data, figure out where the hot spots were, and encourage people to move based on the data we were getting. And the ones that didn't move, well, don't worry, we still towed them too. And then for the people who really wanted to get engaged, we really wanted to get them where they were, and so we created a 311 app right from your phone. So you can download it, you can report everything, as you can see, from broken park equipment to potholes to abandoned bicycles. And in Boston, we wanted to make it a little more personal. So, for example, when you report a pothole, not only do you get a photo of the closed pothole, but you also get a photo of the team that filled your pothole. It's a way of making it a little more personal for everyone. And we've seen incredible adoption of this digital feedback and this digital usage. 52% of all of our caseloads are being submitted digitally now in 2016. And so that's how we've gotten to the point where we've gotten reliable data and applying it. Those are just a few uses. We recently used for student move-in an algorithm to scour Craigslist so that when landlords were announcing, an attic studio, which is in many cases illegal due to occupancy in the city, we target that and we're able to get inspectors in before people moved in. And so that's how we're using that data at that level. But how do we take it to the next level? And how do we use data now like baseball and sabermetrics has to really get to that point where we're taking all of that information and creating quick and actionable next steps? And look at the average, right? Look at how it evolved in baseball. The batting average started with hits over at-bats. Then it went to things like on-base percentage, which is times on base over at-bats. And now it's gone to crazy things like this: wins above replacement, right? Batting runs, base running runs, fielding runs, positional adjustment, et cetera, over runs per win. A lot of different variables, but all summing up into something very easy to understand. How many more wins a player is bringing into that team than a replacement player at that position? So we thought about how we could apply that to the public sector and to the city. And so we went back to the dashboard. Our service level percentage is a very simple batting average-like equation. It is calls answered within 30 seconds over total calls. And we noticed when we had that up there, the mayor would look, and every time the score dipped below 90%, he would point to someone and say, hey, check and see why we're getting those calls. And so we took that and we said, what if we created an actionable, easy to understand dashboard for the mayor to not just look at call centers, but everything. Library users, Wi-Fi availability, pothole on-time percentage. And we thought about what could it be like if we designed something where we were scoring ourselves in this way, and cities around the country helped us design it. Think about the lives we could potentially save, and think about the amount of efficiency we could realize. And so we did, and we came up with CityScore. It's a way of taking all of that data and allowing us to be actionable and as effective as possible. Here's a look at how it works. An illustrative chart of a few variables here. Things you'd see in every city: Part 1 crime, school attendance, performance. Everything rolled up into a single score. And as you can see from the legend, very easy to understand. Anything above 1 means we're exceeding our targets, and anything below 1 means that we need improvement. And here's how it could look like at a department level. Public works, all these key things like sidewalk repair, cost per mile to resurface, et cetera, but also a score in the corner to know how well or how not well we are at meeting our targets. And if you go to boston.gov/cityscore, you can see this in real time, giving us all of these different measures and all rolled up into a single score on the day, week, month, and quarter. And here's another way to look at it. The top 5 areas we're exceeding, and the 5 areas that we need particular follow-up. And we've seen amazing results in just 8 months since we've launched CityScore. For example, EMS response time, how fast the ambulances were getting to the scene. The mayor noticed that that was red constantly on day, week, month, and quarter. So he had me do more research on it, and we found that we hadn't upgraded our ambulance fleet. And so despite the fact that our city was growing, we hadn't updated our ambulance fleet in a long time. And so we bought 10 new ambulances in this fiscal year strictly because CityScore was able to identify so quickly that that was an issue. So it's not hyperbole to say this use of data is going to be saving lives. We saw an 18% increase in how efficiently we were fixing our streetlight outages. We're improving this traffic signal repair process, again, because people understand they're being scored and they want to make sure to match that. And we identified a backlog of sign installation requests just by looking at how we do this process. And we've received interest across the world about CityScore just like we've hoped, all across the United States, in India, and all across the world. And we've now put this as an open source online. So if you go to GitHub, you can actually download the toolkit and create your own CityScore in your own city. And we're piloting this right now. Cities like South Bend, Miami, and Providence, Rhode Island are currently doing this and helping us think this all through. And we're going to be applying CityScore to other major city initiatives, and we're going to continue improving our city performance using this. We have every single cabinet chief giving us our FY17 goals with numerical targets, with CityScore helping to guide them and making sure we're on track. Now, we believe that nothing, despite all this data, nothing will ever replace the shaking of a hand, the going to a community meeting, or the general feel of a neighborhood. But the beauty is now, data has allowed us, like never before, to serve our constituents better than ever before, and we believe it is our fiduciary responsibility to use that to the best of our ability. And so that's what Boston's doing today, and we hope that you'll download CityScore Toolkit as well and help us make it even better. Thank you.